Okay. And if you guys could just keep your cameras on and keep yourself muted unless there's a question asked or you have a question. And I am so excited for Love's Arm to be with us tonight and to share on this topic of hot's not cool. I'm super interested in what they have in store for us tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mimi so that she can tell us a little bit about herself and Mr. Brandon, who is here with us tonight to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandy, for having us, and good evening to you all. We are so grateful, is the way to put it, to be able to be with you tonight. And we are with Love's Arm, and Love's Arm has been at work here in Chattanooga with women survivors of trafficking, prostitution, and addiction for the last 16 years, actually. So, just a little background on that. Um, it was part of my life experiences in some way. I experienced many of those things myself, and am very grateful to have come out and be where I am today with the life that I'm living, and know the difficulty of it and the healing processes that we all have to go through. And so we're here with you tonight to try to share with you some very important information, also to listen well to you. So if you have any questions, hello, Smiley. There she is. We remember you. So if you have any questions you want to ask, we will have a time at the end. So make sure to write them down as we go through. And we will have an open time at the end. We'll leave enough time at the end for you to ask some questions. And you can ask anything you want. There are no wrong questions to ask. And we will try to provide you with conscious, wise, sincere answers. So we are going to kick it off now, and Brandon will start with several things. And then this is Brandon Culpepper. This young man here, he's a young man to me, but this grown man here with the blue striped shirt is Brandon Culpepper. He is one of our board members and just has a really, really amazing passion and mission to help equip especially young people in this area and to carry the message of hope with us. So I'm going to let Brandon kick things off, and I'm going to be quiet now, and I know that's hard to believe. But Brandon, if you will head on, can everybody see the slideshow on the screen? Now, I like to take off on words, so, these days and times, I hear it at least 20 times a week, someone say, oh, they're hot. So we're taking off on that to say that hot's not cool. It's really not a cool thing to say to someone. So we're going to let Brandon start off, and let's talk, Brandon.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mimi. As Mimi was saying, you guys are at an age that's so critical, and it's in so many ways so hard. I know that when you are growing up, it's tough because you go through so many changes, and when you become an adult, you get a little bit older, you'll look back on these years that you're in right now, and you'll really be amazed at how, in some ways, how fast it went, in some ways, how slow it went. But you'll be totally amazed at how much you've shifted, how much you've changed from when you were a little elementary school kid until you grow up and really become a high school kid and then ultimately an adult. But these years are so critical, and the moment that you're growing up in right now is real different than the time that I grew up in and the time that Mimi grew up in and most adults that are out there today, because there's so much technology around you that didn't exist back when we were younger, and that has a huge impact. But some of the things that are true no matter what age bracket you're in, and no matter what it's like when you get older and you look back at your younger years, the thing that you need to think about, I think, is who you are at the deepest level. What drives you to be who you are? How were you created? What is it about you that makes you unique? What is it that you like in life? What is it that drives you? What is it that truly gets you excited about living and being passionate of things that make you who you are? And part of growing up is figuring that out and having the freedom and the space to really come to those decisions and those ideas about what it is that makes you unique and truly
Hold
who
on
you
a
are.
second. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. We got a dog going off. Um, the other thing to think about too, as you're younger, is that even though you have adults or older people that are in charge of you and that kind of have some responsibility as far as you go, that you do have some independence at some level, and that the word no is a good word. As you grow up, you'll start to understand that, um, you know, you have to get on your own 2 feet a little bit. There is no time in life when it's okay for you to ever be put in a situation where you're uncomfortable physically, where you're uncomfortable mentally, where there's something that's happening that you know is wrong. It is okay to speak up and say the word no. Um, as you move into the other parts of your life as you grow up, I mean, one of the things that's going to come up is is your sexuality, and I know that's an odd thing to talk about with adults, but that's just the way kind of society is. But please understand that there's nothing dirty about that. There's nothing that in that defines who you are as a person, and it's something that is important to get educated on, to to understand what it is within you that is that piece of your life, to understand that it's not a bad thing or a dirty thing or a wrong thing, but that it can be manipulated by people who don't have your best interest at heart. That's just something to think about. Um, who are you? The different components of who you are. Your gender, your race, and your age are part of your makeup. But that's just pieces of it. There's different things in life about what your gender is, what your race is, what your age is, and there's going to be different um, things that you walk out based on all that. But at the deepest level, that you got to kind of understand who you are as an individual outside of just how you're defined as far as gender, race, and age. Um, when you start growing up, um, you start to firm up the adult piece of your life and who you're going to be as an adult. That starts forming up and formulating at an early age. You start at this stage of life that you're in right now, kind of walking that out and getting on the path of what it is to be an adult, and you're learning those preferences and those things about yourself that will help you be an individual as an adult. Boundaries. Uh, Again, they help define who you are. It is never okay to be pushed into things that make you feel uncomfortable. And it is perfectly okay for you to stand up and say no to that. No matter who is doing the pushing and no matter how old you are, those boundaries are healthy, and they help you be real within them, and they help you be healthy within them. And that's something that we want to encourage you to have, is those boundaries, and that it is okay to always say no. When it is appropriate to say no. Sex is just a part of your identity. Again, it's something that the more you learn about it, the easier it is to talk about it in a healthy way, to understand what it is, to understand how to be healthy with that side of your life. And as you grow up, you'll learn that it's not something to be taken lightly, but it's also not something to be scared about. It is just something to treat with great care and to understand what it is as far as your identity goes. Nothing that defines you as a person, but it is something that's important that you learn about. It's important to have someone safe to talk to, someone you can trust, someone who truly has your best interest at heart. I'm hoping that everybody that's on this call has that person. because you have to have an outlet. Because when you start talking about things that are bringing you into adulthood, it can be very embarrassing. I know even some of the things I've mentioned in this little speech I've given are a little bit weird, but don't let it. That's really not the case. Don't let it make you feel that way. People who truly know you and love you and care about you, you've got open doors to communicate with them. They're not going to do anything but help you get through those conversations and help you understand how okay it is to fully let that out and be who you are and talk about all the different sides of your life. And you know, as you move through this part of your life, I think that the one of the important things is to understand truly uh, who you are. And the more you understand you, the more you'll be understood. Because then you can truly talk about what it is that drives you, motivates you, the things that you like, and then form the relationships that are healthy around you. Because you want to be around people that truly care about you, that are okay with your boundaries, and that are safe to talk to. Okay. You know what you like. I'm sure all you guys kind of have some feelings about what it is that you like. If you're into sports, if you have hobbies, if you are into video games, if you're artistic, if you like music, if you like movies, if you like to read, if you like to cook, these are all important things to chart out right now and to kind of get a feel for as you grow up and as you identify, you know, who you're going to be as you get older. What you like is important and worth your time. Don't let ever anybody tell you that your interests are out of bounds or out of whack or not valid. That's not the case. Everybody's got unique things about who they are as people, and it's important for you to understand that is an awesome thing. We're all unique people. We're all individuals. We all bring a little bit of a different mix to the table in the relationships that we form in and of ourselves, with the relationships that we form with other people. And that's important to be able to clearly understand what it is that drives us as individuals. So take time to really truly understand what you love, what you want to do, who you are, and really what you want to be. Keep doing it. You know, don't outgrow it. I mean, if you find something that you truly love, you know, don't let it phase out. Keep that going in your life. Keep that momentum. There's things that you're doing right now that hopefully you find that you're good at, that are beneficial to you and the people around you. I hope you'll be doing it when you're 60, 70 years old. You know, that's something that's important to tap into at this age. And then the big one, I love this one right here at the end: liking yourself is more important than being liked. Right now, at this stage of your life, it is so hard not to be motivated to impress other people. You even may find yourself doing things and getting into activities solely for the purpose of making yourself look a certain way to the people you go to school with or the people you're friends with. That is not as important as you loving yourself, you being at peace with yourself, and you liking yourself. Believe me, the pressure that you feel right now, as real as it is, the peer pressure is a real thing, and it has tremendous impacts on people. When you become an adult, when you get older, being true to yourself and loving yourself is infinitely more important than all that. Because if you've got that firm basis of self-love and loving yourself and respecting yourself and being at home with who you are and being at peace with yourself, the people that will be around you are going to truly love you for that, and they'll affirm that, and there'll be those boundaries that we're talking about that are healthy, and they'll relate to you in an authentic way for really who you are, and that's going to give you such peace and stability in your life. So try to resist being pulled into things that you know aren't right, truly don't interest you, or that cause yourself not to be at peace. Really do more of what you like and love yourself for it. Okay. And here comes Mimi's part, because she's going to talk a little bit about protecting yourself in this age that we live in. You're going to hear more about specifically how that works, the technology that's around you, the way society is bent toward technology, and then what you can do to protect yourself. I encourage you to open your ears and listen for a minute, because what you're about to hear can change your life in a lot of ways if you'll absorb it. So with that, I'll just kind of pitch this to Mimi and let her tell you more about it. You're on mute.
Unmute.
There you
There
go.
we go. Thank you. Thank you, Brandon. This part is really, it's very important to us all. It's something, I was a computer science major in 1981 through 1984, and it was before smartphones ever existed. Actually, it was before Microsoft Windows was developed. And so, with my computer science experience, I have literally been a part of the birthing of the technological revolution and have watched us go from punch cards to Windows to web browsers to smartphones. And there's always been one thing that's never changed. And I'm going to tell you about it. It's called your IP address. And all of you, no matter whether you have a smartphone, no matter whether you have a laptop, no matter whether you have a larger desktop computer, any kind of technological tool that you have and use has a unique identifier that is unique to that machine and your use. And it's called your IP address. And it's more valuable than your social security number. I know that may be hard to believe, but in the days and times we're in now, every time you turn on your smartphone, your laptop, your computer, whatever it may be, there are, I can't even tell you how many thousands, almost hundreds of thousands of people have access to everything you do. Now, you may think I'm trying to scare you. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to equip you and give you the wisdom you need to help you make wise decisions when you're on your technology. Okay? So, how can you protect yourself in this digital age? We just talked about knowing who you are, knowing what you like, knowing when to say no and how important that is. And I'm also going to talk with you a little bit about what is appropriate and inappropriate when it comes to technology. Okay? And I'm only saying that to you to let you know that if you, we'll keep going, we're going to talk about what we know. Should you have a smartphone? Well, I would venture to say most everybody on this call either has one, wants one, or has had one in their hand at some point in time. And today, a smartphone is nothing less than a computer in your hand. You can do almost everything with a smartphone that you can with a laptop or a desktop, but the access to doing it is easier. So, we're going to talk about some of those things tonight. We're going to talk about the effects of smartphones on our culture and on our lives, and especially on childhood and the process of growing up. Smartphones change childhood. How do they do that? Well, most of us, as we go through life, we're going through stages of human formation, which means that our minds and our emotions are only at a certain capacity during certain stages of life, so we can only comprehend, understand, process, and make sense of certain things at certain times as we mature. I hope that makes sense to you. So putting a smartphone in someone's hand that's brain, emotions, and life experiences have not equipped them to process what you can do with that phone is challenging children to think, act, and respond like adults from a very young age. Does that make sense? Because if I am 12 years old, in all honesty, I've got enough going on in my head trying to understand everything that's taking place in my body that I have no comprehension of what's going on with me. But to put a phone in my hand that I can find answers and put things in front of me that even challenge my ability to process my own life, and I'm already confused, it changes me as a child. Smartphones produce an addictive brain response. I am a recovering addict, so I'm not ashamed of that. It's important for me to be able to say that so that I can speak with you from a place of experience. An addictive brain. What does that mean? That means that someone's brain is trained to produce certain chemical responses to certain things at certain times that create pathways of thought, emotion, and behavior. Our brains are wired. It's like our brains have electrical systems. They're wired. And when certain things take place, we see them, we hear them, we experience them, it creates an electrical impulse and a response in the brain. Smartphones produce addictive brain responses. Almost a half of children in this age group, I'm so sorry I can't see my whole screen, ages 12 to 16 feel like they're addicted to their smartphones. How many times have you tried to put your phone down and wanted to leave it laying down, but you couldn't help? You could only do that for a short period of time before you felt like you had to pick it up. That is an addictive brain response because you train your brain to be looking at the phone, to be touching the phone, to be touching the little red dots, the notifications. Our brains is training. So we're developing a process in our brains that is constantly on and going. Smartphones are a constant distraction and they impair sleep. Vamping is when you can't go to sleep because you have to keep looking at the screen, or you're laying in bed and something comes in on your smartphone and the glow of the light of it automatically wakes you up and you pick up the phone and look at it. See, you started activating your brain when it was needing time to stop, to rest, to sleep, to be refreshed. That is called vamping. Okay? I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that, but it impairs the ability of all of us to sleep because our brains have been trained to see the light, to pick up the phone, and to engage with whatever process has just notified us. Smartphones interfere with relationships. This is really, really big. I try to make people and help people understand that communication, transferring information, and communication are different things. And I truly believe that internet processes, email, texting, all of these forms of communication were really developed to transfer information, to give bytes of information, but not necessarily for us to replace face-to-face talking and listening with cyber world. So interferes with relationships. How much of your time and energy are spent on your online friendships? Ask yourself that question. The time you spend on online friendships is depleting and deteriorating the time you can spend and the quality time you may be able to have with your family. Okay? So our family relationships are suffering because of the time and energy we spend online trying to be friends with one another. Okay? I hope that helps. It's very heartbreaking to me, the level of social anxiety that young people have today. And many young people have lost the ability to actually sit down and have a conversation face to face with each other anymore because the generations that have been coming up in the last 15 years have adapted to communicating through machines instead of actually being with people and learning to talk and listen to one another. So I encourage you, if that's where you are and that's where you're heading, take the time to tell someone and ask them to please help you learn how to build relationships without technology. Technology, smartphones increase the risk of depression and anxiety. Are you afraid of missing out on something? Fear of missing out. If you have a fear of missing out, 90% of the time you're going to be picking up your phone a lot, your smartphone, because you're afraid if you don't, you're going to miss some kind of information or communication and be left out. It's also not enough compared to peers. So you feel like you're not enough compared to other people because who we are and our images and what we say and how we look is constantly being in our faces all the time. So what's happened is we've started comparing ourselves to people as many times, hours of the day that exist, and we can look at our phones. We're saying, oh, I wish I looked like that. Oh, I don't like the way I look. My image is being challenged by what I'm seeing. Please, please, please. You are beautiful. You're amazing. You're gifted no matter how you look compared to someone else. No two people look exactly alike, even identical twins. Did you know that? Okay. Smartphones cause constant stimulation. It again? I'm sorry.
It's okay. I don't know what happened.
I don't know how I got muted. Where did y'all miss me?
It was like 2 seconds. It wasn't very long. You were muted.
Okay. So the smartphone constantly stimulates our brain. We just talked about that. And that constant stimulation impairs our ability to feel calm and relaxed. So it increases anxiety. I have chronic anxiety, not necessarily because of smartphones, but because of my life experiences. And so part of my daily practices in life is actually doing deep breathing and learning techniques that help me to calm down, to know peace, and to have more emotional, mental, and spiritual stability in my life. And those things help me. So it's really not healthy for me or anyone else to constantly be stimulating my brain. It's something I've had to work on because I'm just as prone to being addicted to my smartphone as we all are. Alrighty, I have lost my controls. There we go. Smartphones expose people to sexual content. I'm probably not telling you anything you don't already know. And we're going to talk for a minute about pornography. I know it's a hard word. We really don't like to talk about it, but it's a reality. And with the birth and the forward motion of technology and the technological revolution, more and more accessibility to pornography has been made available everywhere on your smartphones. It usually comes through apps and ads. Apps and ads. Any free app you load usually has a whole lot of ads with it, and the back door of many of those ads, if you click on it, it will take you to a porn site. So be very, very careful. In 2019, porn sites received more traffic than Amazon, Netflix, and Twitter combined. In 2019, there's one called Pornhub. To tell you what they did in 2020, in 2019, they reported 42 billion visits to their sites. In 2020, when COVID hit, they completely did away with any cost it took to join their site. so they were more easily accessible to people in lockdown. It's a huge industry. It's about money, and they're in it to make money. And they're in it to make money off of deteriorating people's lives. The U.S. continues to be the #1 consumer in the world of pornography. I'm going to say that again. The United States of America continues to be the #1 consumer of pornography in the world. 26% of boys and girls aged 13 to 17 actively seek out pornography weekly or more often. That's kind of scary, isn't it? I'm having a hard time seeing this screen. Give me a second. There you go. On every platform, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram, there are access to pornography, even on gaming consoles. Did y'all know that? Xbox. Smartphones expose children to sexual content without knowledge or understanding of what respectful, mutually agreeable, intimate relationship is. Pornography also affects the brain and the brain's responses. I don't want to talk about too many things here that I don't want to go too far into this, but just to tell you, if you've ever heard of heroin addiction, the response of the brain produces something called dopamine. And when it is highly stimulated, and pornography causes the same level of dopamine production in the brain as the drug heroin. It's that addictive. The addiction to pornography is just as addictive as addiction to the drug heroin. All right, can y'all see my slide? All right, I'm not being able to see it real well. I apologize for this. It's probably because I'm on a different platform. Is porn exposure such a big deal? What do you think? Is pornography exposure a big deal? Yes, it is. It forms the way our brains respond and think. Anything that affects the way our brains react, respond, and changes the way we think, feel, and behave is a big deal. So 25% of females are searching for pornography. So pornography addiction is increasing amongst females as well. I think that's very important to understand and know about, and puts people at a constant, increasingly exposure to violence and graphic things, graphic violence. This is pretty hard stuff to talk about, and please ask any questions when we're done. Child porn addiction is a real thing, and child sexual assault is rising. We've heard a lot of headlines in the past 10 years about young children sexually assaulting other children. And there's such thing as age of film victims are getting younger. The younger victims are getting younger in pornographic movies and in films. And it fuels sex trafficking, which is what we're going to talk about next. Has anyone ever heard of cyberbullying? Well, smartphones put us at risk for cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is persistent, is permanent, and it's hard to recognize. Cyberbullying is when people say very mean, degrading, damaging things that make us question our self-image, our self-worth, and our value as human beings. And they say them online to one another. 87% of teens have observed cyberbullying. You may have observed it yourself. You may have even thought, why did they say something that mean? It's called bullying. And with the social media and with smartphones, people have the ability to do that. What I want you to know is they feel worse about themselves than the things they're saying about others. Okay? 59% of U.S. teens have been bullied and harassed online. 59% of U.S. teens have been bullied and harassed online. Targets of cyberbullying are at greater risk of both self-harm and suicidal behaviors. Suicide has increased by, it's something like 26% amongst teens since the birth and the progression of social media because of cyberbullying. Smartphones put you at risk for sexting. You may ask what sexting is. Sexting is the new first base. In the old days, in our days, when we were dating or young people were dating, they had things they called bases. So sexting is considered first base now. That's when someone sends you a text message and asks you to reveal parts of your body to them or to talk inappropriately with them about sex. I encourage you, if that happens to you, block that person from being able to contact you. Do not send them any photographs of yourself. Any photograph you may send anyone in a text message is readily and easily accessible to people you have no idea who they are or how they would get your IP address and find out. You may find those images later on somewhere else. So just to encourage you, that is inappropriate. And that is something you can say, no, I will not do that. That is inappropriate. Do not ask me for that. That is inappropriate. Use the word inappropriate. It's a very important word. If you say, I would never, would you ever try to impress someone that you had a crush on? Ask yourself that. Would you ever try to be funny? Because our brains are wired for bonding. Trying to be funny can trap us. Trying to impress someone you have a crush on can take us places we don't want to go. Would you ever feel a need for acceptance and belonging? I believe that every human being ever born on the face of the earth has a need for acceptance and belonging. How do you feel about that, Sandy? Yes, we would all feel a need for acceptance and belonging. Would you ever succumb to the pressure or threats of others? Would you ever use short-term thinking and believe, oh, that's no big deal. If I ignore it, it'll go away. Believe it will disappear. If we ignore it, it will not go away. Would you ever receive a photo and then believe it's okay to send one? And would you ever believe in true love? All of these things are very important to understand. The reason I say that is because whoever's on the other side of this, if they perceive you're trying to impress them, if they perceive that you're trying to be funny, if they perceive all of these things about you, they will say and do whatever you want to hear or whatever you want done to make you think you are accepted by them. That is called grooming, and it is a trap. So please be careful. That's why we tell you to know and love yourself. Know what you will do and what you will not do, and hold to those boundaries. And don't let anyone push you into something that you are not comfortable with. Cell phones allow for digital self-harm. This is one thing that is on the rise. People saying things like this to one another online is one of the reasons that there is an increase in teen suicide. Do us all a favor and kill yourself. Those things have actually been said, and people seeking attention and wanting to be accepted, wanting to belong, have said these things intentionally, setting themselves up for self-harm. The smartphone increases access for predators. We're going to talk for just a minute about sex trafficking and predators. Understanding what is a predator. A predator is a human being that manipulates, coerces, and draws another person in order to use them, hurt them, and use them for their own personal satisfaction. And these days, the internet is the new street corner. It's where people hang out now, trying to get what they want, what they need, manipulate other people to give them what they want and what they need. All youth are at risk. All youth are at risk to predators. Why? It doesn't matter if you're shy, quiet, kind, rich, poor, popular, or a loner. There is no particular demographic that defines someone as being more accessible to a trafficker and to a predator than another. Everyone is at risk. All youth are at risk. This is a picture of the Polaris Human Trafficking Hotline map from 2019. Polaris is the human trafficking watchdog for our nation. Where you see the dots on the maps are where they have reported incidences from victims of trafficking. If you'll notice, the red is where there's an awful lot of reported activity. I want you to look at something. Do you know what this is right here? What this red hook is? This is Tennessee. This is Atlanta, Georgia. This is I-75, and guess what this is? Chattanooga, Tennessee. Chattanooga is now the third largest hub for sex trafficking activity in the Southeast. You can see it on this picture. Not to scare you, just to make you aware. In 2019, there were 11,500 cases of domestic, that means within our country, domestic sex trafficking. And it was reported by 22,407 victims. 11,500 cases reported, valid cases reported by 22,407 victims. That's only because the victims reported. We have no idea how many victims have not reported. It's hard to report sex trafficking because there is pain, shame, and many times fear involved in the process of reporting the crime. Learn the signs of grooming. Posting fear, emptiness, or disappointment. Do not do that. I encourage you. If you post something out there or text someone and you say, nobody gets me, you have just opened the door for someone to tell you they understand you. And a trafficker or a predator will do that very thing in order to gain your trust. So be careful what you say. I am so ugly. Well, someone who's grooming you is going to say, oh, no, you're not. I think you're beautiful. That's what they believe you want to hear in order for you to trust them. My life sucks. Well, they're going to say, well, I'll make your life better. They're giving you the antidote to whatever you're saying in order to gain your trust. Be wise. Be careful what you say. 1 in 10 children are sexually abused, and over 90% of them know their abusers. Traffickers lure their victims, so it's important for kids to learn the signs of grooming and to understand and recognize that people will use things such as money, things, love, and relationships to try to gain your trust and woo you in to unhealthy, destructive relationships. This is tough. Now we're at the questions time. I'm sure you have many. So we're going to open this up for questions now. There is no question that you cannot ask.
That was a lot of information. Maybe they're trying to process it.
I bet they are. So if there was anything that you wrote down a question about as we went through, please feel free to ask it.
Has anybody ever heard this about smartphones before? Has a teacher or anybody ever told you some of the things that can go on with that and some of the impacts it could have? Have you ever heard that? Have you ever felt that? Has anybody had any feelings, kind of like what Mimi's been talking about? This is a great opportunity to let that out. This is a safe spot to do that.
And I just want to encourage everyone and tell you it is absolutely normal to want to feel loved. We all want to be loved, to feel loved, to know we are loved. That is an absolutely normal thing. It's just many times how people go about taking advantage of that we're talking about. And you're worth a lot more than being taken advantage of. Smiley, did you have something?
Well, yes. That, as Sandy was saying, that's a lot of information to take in, even at the age that I am. Like those statistics in this area, like in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia area, that's a lot.
It is.
That you're not aware of that's going on.
That's, and it's important, and that's why we're trying to make people aware. And it's very important that we be aware, but it also can be a little overwhelming, and we understand that. So
overwhelming for me. I was just like, what is going on?
It can be overwhelming. And I think one of the reasons it can be overwhelming is because we don't talk about these things very much. We don't talk about them. And what we're trying to say is it's okay to talk about it. It's okay if you're uncomfortable about something related to sex, to emotions, to things going on in your brain that you're thinking about. It's okay to talk about it. And it's okay to be heard. And so we just want you all to understand that having someone safe you can talk to about these things. Because this can not only be overwhelming, it can be confusing. And we understand that. I understand it. And so just to let you know that.
Also, if you missed any of this, if you were a little late or maybe you zoned out accidentally and didn't catch everything that was presented tonight, we are recording. So I can send you the link if you email me and ask for it. And you can also email me and ask any questions, and I can forward them on to Mimi, and she and Brandon can answer them that way, as well as if later you think of something that you wanted to ask, but you didn't think of it right now.
I know a lot of this can be embarrassing. I mean, when you get adults up here talking about some of the things we're talking about, it's hard to open up questions and then jump right out because you don't know us. I know you don't. But what I do want you to hear is how valuable you are. I mean, you don't realize it as a young person, but you have infinite worth. You are more mighty than you might realize. And as you grow up, the impact on the world that you're going to have is going to be huge. You're going to be running things one day. You know, I hope you remember this conversation that, you know, there are adults out there that see you for how special you are, that truly care about you, even though they may not know you. There's a lot of people pulling for you. I know Mimi and I fall into that category because we understand you're the future. We also understand how technology is impacting you even in ways that you might not realize right now because the world has shifted so much. So protect yourself. Don't send pictures of yourself that you shouldn't send. I've always been taught that if you don't want your grandmother to see it or hear it, don't post it or put it out there. I mean, imagine her getting the message. If you wouldn't want her to get it, don't send it, okay? That'll just protect you, because I can tell you, as a person who hires people in my job, once you've got stuff out there in cyberspace, anybody can get it. Anybody can access it. It can be found. It can come back to haunt you. Not only being victimized by people that have truly bad intent, like traffickers and people that want to prey on you, but you know, just things that you wouldn't want out there as an adult. So think about that. If you don't take anything else from this conversation, just remember that just keep your guard up. I wish this was out there more. I don't think people realize at a young age how critical it is to protect yourself in cyberspace. And also, like Mimi said, to be able to find that person, that adult in your life that you truly trust, that you can be 100% open with and safe with, and let these things out to, and ask questions. Because as you grow up, there's going to be a lot of confusing things that come at you. You're going to need to talk to people that have been through life, you know, that have grown up and been through the things that you're going through. And trial and error is not the best way to figure things out, you know. So please keep that in mind. Protect yourself and find adults and older people that love you, that truly get who you are and truly care about supporting who you're becoming. So I would just urge you to take that away from this, if nothing else.
And just, you know, be you and know who you are. And I do encourage you to find those things you love to do. I love watching. I should say I'm Mimi. I love going to the movies. I love cooking. I love music. I like to play the guitar. I've been doing those things for 50 years of my life or more. And those are things I love. They're a part of who I am. And I've even told other people, if you don't like that about me, that's okay. I like that about me. And so find those things you love to do, okay, outside of technology. And enjoy those things. and find your passion in those things and just keep doing them. Everybody's got something. Some people like to hike in the mountains. Some people like to go camping. Some people like to sew. Some people like to draw. Some people like to make art. Some people like to make music. Some people like to dance. Whatever it is that you like, give that a lot of your time and energy, and allow yourself to thrive in that, because that's part of finding who you are. And no one can take that from you. You hold on to who you are. And it's important to focus on something other than our fears sometimes. And we're growing up with a lot of them. So we are so grateful that you came to be with us tonight, and that you allowed us the opportunity to step into your life for a minute. I can't tell you what an honor that is. I, in all honesty and sincerity, have to say, I wish I had had this when I was your age. I grew up in an age to where we didn't talk about these things, and it wasn't okay to talk about them. And if bad things happened in the culture I grew up in, they were just ignored and swept under a rug, and life moved on. But for me, life didn't move on. And so it took a long time for life to move on for me, because I experienced some of these things, even without a smartphone, in the time that I grew up. And so in any way that I can pass on hope and help to educate you and make you aware, we're just very honored to be able to do that. And I pray that God bless you and give you wisdom and strength, and especially love for yourself, to stand up and say, this is who I am and I'm okay with me. And don't ever let anyone else tell you who you are. Okay?
Thank you so much, Mimi and Brandon, for being on tonight. Greatly, greatly appreciate it, and thoroughly enjoyed what you shared. Not that probably didn't come out right. I think that you know what I mean, because they're sensitive topics, they're hard topics. But like you said, Mimi, it's definitely something that needs to be talked about, and teens need to know about it, because there aren't probably very many people sharing it in their lives. But I want to respect everyone's time. It's just about 8 o'clock, and I want to let you guys go. Again, if you would like the recording of this, or if you think of a question later, please don't hesitate to email me. If you do not have my email, you can find it on our website, riseupcooperative.org. And if it's a question, I can definitely get it over to Mimi for you. So everyone have a wonderful evening, and thank you again. And I will see you all next week, hopefully.
Good night.
Good night.